Good evening and welcome. This is a Tuesday night, which is rather bizarre for me to be sat here, but here I am, hopelessly devoted as ever to this channel and this side of ours, who are hours away, about 48 hours away from facing the mighty Chelsea. I call them mighty. They once were a bit like us. They've lost a little bit of their shine and their sparkle ever since their little Russian friend had to go back elsewhere and drop it. But we know how that feels to be in a situation where we begin to drop a little bit. So it'll be very interesting to get these guys' thoughts on the entire situation. As ever, I am joined by the incomparable, the unbelievable, the amazing, the man from the International Space Station, allegedly, Andrew Wall. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Doing all good in the space station.
Not in the space station. So
No,
that's
yeah.
all a lie. Never mind. And then, of course, my right-hand man on my left-hand side, it is the one, the only, Mr. Dan Field. How are you, sir?
I was good until about 10 minutes ago when I saw any injuries.
It's hard to get anybody happy on this show sometimes, isn't it? You join on and everybody's just... never mind. There's still me. I shall endeavour to do my best to keep it as light-hearted and as fun as possible. So there we go. Well, we'll kick it off. We've got the three of us here tonight, obviously, as I said, to discuss the Chelsea game. But Andy, I'm actually going to kick off with you purely because you are one of the poor, unfortunate souls, as I like to call you. In other words, one of the people that went all the way from, not quite Manchester for you, but still north, all the way down to sunny London for the game against Brentford. Of course, we put your stuff onto Twitter, all of the brilliant things that you have sent us, pictures, videos, the lot. And then Mason Mount scores. And you would be forgiven for thinking that we've done it again. We've nicked it at the end, just like Diallo coming on and grabbing his spot. Mason Mount's done the same thing. He shut up the haters within 2 minutes, really. We're back to square one and level again. Just talk to us a little bit about what that experience was like for you.
I mean, the game itself wasn't that great to watch, especially that first half. I was like, are we ever going to get... I think we only had one shot on target, and that was from Rashford, and that was just before half-time. If I remember, Brentford I think they'd already hit the post from Tony, and then the bar as well. So it's just like Brentford were all over us, and even in the second half as well, they were threatening with even more chances. And I just thought it was getting towards the 80th minute, and I was thinking we're still 0-0, and I thought, we're getting closer to full time. I thought if we just get one chance in injury time and we take it, we can win this game. And I thought we did. When Mason, was played through, and I was like, and when he hit it, I just remember just getting pushed all over the place while Mason Matt and the rest of the players coming towards us, and I was just like, finally we've scored. And I thought, oh, that's it, just got to right at the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game. And then, as United have done all season, let it slip through their hands again. And I'm just like, just the disappointment. I remember watching the goal back, and I thought, it's another cut back through the defence. I'm like, we can't be letting that space, become free for the opposition. And I give Brentford their due. They were the better team overall. And, and the chances they had, they said they would work several times. And I thought they deserve something out of the game. So probably more than just a point. They probably more than likely deserve the 3. But I just thought we snatched it near the end, but wasn't to be our night. But, we're entering this week against Chelsea and Liverpool a bit on the back foot. And, we've got to pick up some results because, we said that going, well, the Liverpool FA Cup game, that game and the games going forward are going to play an important part for the rest of the season. So it's just like, and now we're just saying backstage, the injuries as well, 2 confirmed injuries. It's like it never rains, but it pours.
Tell me about it. But then that's what happens when you support a team from Manchester. It's not exactly the best of weather, is it? NT said I've wiped my memory of the Brentford game, trying to find a way to wipe my memory of the whole season, in all honesty. It does kind of have those vibes, to be honest with you, NT. And bath time, yes, we're going to get to your comment momentarily as we continue to talk about our defensive woes. But, I mean, it's really interesting because you spoke about there, Andrew, Brentford deserving something out of the game. And it's one of those interesting ones, isn't it? Because, you know, we talk a lot about if people deserve it or not. I saw an April Fool's that was going around yesterday that was saying that UEFA were thinking of scrapping penalty shootouts and they were going to replace them with XG. So basically, at the end of the 90 and the extra time, if they hadn't got a winner, whoever had the most XG would win the game. And that really played with me for a bit before I worried about whether it was an April Fool or not, because I just kind of thought about the process. You know, he was arguing actually the team that deserves it would be the team that goes through. And I just sort of thought, well, that's not football really, is it? It's not always that you get what you deserve. If you go out there and you have 30 shots and you miss 29 of them, and only one of them's on target and the other team has 2 shots but scores them both, then you could argue they got what they deserved because they were more clinical with what they were doing. They were less wasteful. So very intrigued by this whole what you deserve in football thing, because it's just not always the case that you get what you deserve. Simon's already coming with his predictions. We're going to leave that one till the end, Simon. We'll pop that up at the end when we do ours as well. And NT's talking about bar time and saying what he would do if Martinez is indeed out for another month. Now, I've got to be honest, I only recently heard that ourselves. The one I wanted to talk about before we get to Leacher is the one and the only Raphael Varane. Now, an interesting player is Raphael Varane. Any idea what his middle name is, guys?
I think. No idea.
Not a clue?
I feel like he's going to be named after a Ninja Turtle or something.
Do you know what? It's not a million miles off. He could be the leader of the X-Men.
Xavier?
It is. Imagine that. He's got a name with X and V in it, which I can't imagine happens too often, to be honest with you. You know, that's a Scrabble score waiting to happen if you're allowed them, won't they? That is an underrated message, I've got to say. Could be what it translates to. Not entirely sure. But yes, it could be. So, listen, Raf has had 92 games for us since he joined in 2021. And, you know, his record's not terrible. He's on a win percentage of 55%. So we'll win more than we lose against him. With him in the team. In those 92 games, we've conceded 111 goals. Right. So, Dan, I'm kind of intrigued. The news about Raphael Varane goes into a wider conversation, obviously, about heading the ball and the dangers that could potentially bring. We'll come to that in a bit. I'm more interested at this moment in time. Do you think that losing Varane for the rest of the season, in the nicest way, matters? Is it going to affect the way that we perform defensively, really, considering the number of goals that we had conceded? What do you reckon? Is he a big miss? Is he one of our top 4, effectively?
It's a tough question because you can say this with a lot of Man United players that have come in the last 10 years or 5 years or whatever period you want to take from. So he was a world-class player that came to the club with a massive history and the trophy cabinet to prove that he was a quality player. But did we sign the wrong one? Varane, he's had a great career, but was he the leader at Madrid that we thought he could be for United, if that makes sense? I think Ramos was more the leader and Varane was very good at what Varane does. And he's come to United and he's still very good at what Varane does, but we've not got that leader that's been next to him because of injuries or whatever. So it's affected his play. So he can defend his line well. He can do what he needs to do well, but he's not going to do as we've seen what Johnny Evans has done for us this season, which is communicate, keep players where they should be, tell players where they should go. It's just not Varane's game. So we've not seen the best of Varane in a Man United shirt since he signed. He's been unlucky with injury. When you think about the back four, it's always changed. The goalkeeper's changed for him this season as well. There's been no stability for him. And then he, unfortunately, has been part of the problem as well, because he's can't go 10 games without getting an injury, it would seem. I don't think it's going to affect us too much, but not just because like he's a bad defender or anything like that. It's more because, and I say it about the midfield, you can chop and change as much as you want, but while the tactics are a bit off and the players just aren't quite there, it doesn't matter who's playing. We're going to have the same issues until we more of a team and less individuals. It's a strange one, the interview, to be honest. I've seen little bits of it today. I've seen that he said that his son, I think his son's 7, plays football, tells him not to head it. And I think that's a much bigger discussion to be had in terms of football, because if a professional footballer saying that's been at the top of the professional level for a decade or more, it's got to be some serious worries amongst footballers themselves to be telling the kids not to be heading the ball. So maybe that's should be a bigger discussion anyway. But no, I don't think we'll miss him. I don't think it's going to change much, to be honest. It's just more chopping and changing for us. I think the bigger question for me is, do we see him in Man United shirt again? Is that it? It looks like his contract's not going to be renewed from the look of it unless he takes a wage cut. So is Varane's United career finished?
It's interesting. Simon liking us to get rid of the analytics, not a fan of having the stats in there. He just goes by what your eyes use. Do you know, it's really interesting because we were on the women's channel yesterday, Simon, and on the women's channel for United Women, obviously, against Everton, I put up a load of slides, like some really deep down, interesting statistical slides, because people can talk about just seeing the game, but actually when they saw where people were kicking the ball, whether those passes were complete, the direction they were passing in, it makes a massive difference. And actually, I think there is the ability, because a lot goes by when you're watching a game of football. You can't physically watch absolutely every part of the pitch and see everything that's going on. So, you know, I think everything needs to marry together. It's all very well and good. You can't just rely on stats, but you also can't just rely on your eyes. For example, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier on, and he told me that one of the players on Sunday got booked in the game that I was at. And I went, didn't see that. When did that happen? I had a full-on Chris Kamara moment, which wasn't ideal. And it happened immediately after the goal, which is when I was tweeting. So you can't physically see absolutely everything. But I understand what you're saying as well. Andrew, let's bring it over to you. You've seen Raphael Varane, but I think the thing that gets it for me is, like I say, 92 games, but he's been with us since 2021. Now, that's 3 years. Bearing in mind, we're a club that has between 50 and 60 games a season. That's not as many as you'd have expected a marquee defence signing to have had, is it?
You'd expect him to have a lot more. I mean, when we first signed him and him coming out Old Trafford on that opening day of the season against Leeds being parade, I thought, we've got a world-class defenders, won Champions League. And I say, while he's been at United, injuries have dogged Varane down in the past, but I say, this season, I think he's managed 29 appearances in all competitions, so he's just missed 4 matches through illness or injury. So points during the campaign, he fell down the pecking order as well. You know, you had to fight back to get his spot. You know, offering partnering Harry Maguire or Johnny Evans at the back, and yeah, I'd expected him to have played a lot more games. And I think reading something earlier, Gary Neville saying about, you know, Varane, well, he's not had the same impact that, you know, Van Dijk's had at Liverpool, and I tend to agree with Gary Neville on that one. We looked like we pulled off a major coup getting Rafa Varane to us, but it's not quite worked out in the way we all thought it would. And, you know, he's not had that same impact, so it's just I don't know, I'm just now him coming out with it, you know, today with that interview and saying he'd been playing through injury and like concussions as well. Just it makes you, you know, he's saying, I'm fearing for my future now, heading the ball, and every time you play a game, it's just like, well, what if I get another concussion? What happens? It's like you do have that concern for a player as well. You want them to be fit and healthy and give them their best as well, but also you've got to take care of the players as well. And I remember reading some part of that interview. He told I think did he come off during a game and then saying to the medical department, "Oh, I need these tests. I need to find out what's going on," and then did, and then he missed the next game. He said, "Oh, I felt awful for missing the next game," but on the other hand, said if I hadn't had those tests, I'd have been lining up like several days later playing another game. So, say at the end of the day, it's just a game of football, and to say players' health is important as well. So, but in terms of the defence as well, it's not been as consistent this season. We've had to chop and change it. These injuries, just like I know questions have been asked about the medical department, and I think I've said on the show a couple of weeks, with Luke Shaw and Malacia, the medical team told Ten Hag back in January, you're going to have these two players back. You can let Reguilon go back to Tottenham, and still Luke Shaw and Malacia are not here. Okay, Luke Shaw's due to come back, but we've got to work out why all these injuries are happening. And is it down to the training? Is it down to something else? The players' fitness. I say, I don't work at United Medical Department, so it's down to those guys and working it all out. But I say, Varane's been a good player for us. Do I see him there at the start of next season? No.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think it really is incredibly interesting. And when you get down to nuts and bolts of it, I mean, Michael's put here, and it's true, not just in leagues. My granddaughter's leagues under 10s is banned heading the ball. I think that's true for under 12s too. It is at under 12 level. They are pretty much banned from it in training for definite. So it was certainly sent around the schools that I've been at where it said, don't do it. Don't encourage heading of the ball during training and all that sort of stuff. I'm intrigued. And this is one of those shows where I'd quite like Stu to be on, actually, because he usually gives us the back in the war moment and he'll talk about everything from back then. But I'm intrigued as to what you two think. Do you see, first of all, a future where there is no heading of the football ever coming into professional football or not? That would be part one of it. And number two, would you like to see that? Because it's kind of one of those interesting things, isn't it? When the ball's in the air, you want it to be headed away, or you want people to be trying to guess it. We've often said, why didn't you dive for that? Or, you've got to get up higher and get more power in the header. But if this is in the back of players' minds, can you really ask them to put their livelihood, their career, their future life in the balance in the manner that they are? You could argue that boxers do it week in, week out. They get thumped in the head, and it's part and parcel of being a footballer and being a boxer. So where would you go with that? Because I'm not entirely sure where I fall on it. I don't want to see people being hurt later on in their careers, especially, or as Varane is now in that situation. But equally, what do you reckon? So go for it, Mr. Field. Off you go.
It's a difficult question, isn't it? For me, what definitely needs to happen is the ban at the younger levels. Basically, maybe leave it till men and women are 18, 19 before they're heading footballs. I get that it would change the game a little bit in terms of corners and stuff like that, but I suppose some of it, obviously, I'm not an expert on science or whatever, but some of it will be down to body and how it's developed. Men and women of older age are probably better off heading it later on in life than before. For me, it would just come down to if you could do a study, the outcome of the study does it possibly cause dementia? Is it causing other problems later on in life for footballers? I've seen this sort of stuff before banded around where footballers that have retired have said heading can lead to dementia. I know there's stuff in rugby as well where they've done these sort of studies. Ultimately, if it is proven that it's an issue and a big issue for footballers later in life, you've got to look at banning it. It's just whether you can link the two. I can't imagine watching a game of men or women's football at the top elite level of adult life without heading in it. It'd be really strange. Can't imagine the ball being crossed into the box and everybody leaving it, or you've got the other danger of just someone trying to kick it and then boot someone in the head because they're not allowed to head it. It'd be a weird change. But ultimately, I think if you are going to keep heading in the game, which I'd probably fall on that side of it, you make sure that there's something in place that these footballers get the right checkups that they need, or if you could spot something early, like say centre backs or whatever, they have certain tests through the year to make sure that heading the ball constantly isn't causing too many issues or whatever. The same with concussion and how that's come about. People you've got the tests now, and we see it now. Players clearly get knocked out, and the player gets up going, "I want to go again," and you'll see the medical staff say, "Absolutely not. Get yourself down that tunnel. It's not correct. It's not right." And maybe that's a future for it. Just make sure they get in the right test that they need. But like I say, if there is a link and there is a full confirmed link that it's causing a lot of issues later in life for, let's say, even 30+% of people that have played football, then you've got to look at stopping the issue. And if stopping heading stops the issue, then that's what you got to do. I just can't imagine a game without it.
Well, this is it, isn't it, Andrew? Because I can't imagine a game without football. A game of football, sorry, without heading. Can't imagine. Definitely can't imagine a game without football. I'm just standing there watching a bunch of people stood there with the ball and not doing anything. But yeah, I couldn't imagine for 1 second a game without heading. But equally, even though that's the case, do we not need to take a moment to just sit here and think to ourselves, isn't it personal choice? One of the first things that the world goes to is let's ban it. But actually, should it be their choice as to whether or not they want to head a football or not? Because they know the risks. We don't ban smoking unless you're inside, obviously, and you want to push people outside and get them to freeze. So it's a very uncomfortable experience. I'm not a smoker. It never bothered me. I laughed. But obviously, the people that do weren't fans. What do you reckon? Because NT certainly needs to be researched. And I think any delay of it by FIFA and other organisations is either missing it does or risking the well-being of athletes. But then equally, it's not every footballer, is it? It's not like you're looking at, there's hundreds of footballers, thousands of footballers who've played at levels, and it doesn't affect them all. So is it just a personal thing? I don't know. Would you agree with Dan?
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd be a bit strange watching a football game professional football game without seeing, the ball being headed or even or going in for a tackle as well. It's like I say, becoming a non-contact sport as well, so it'd be a bit strange. But let's say research has been ongoing for years. Whether repetitive heading the ball during professional football careers is associated with that risk of cognitive impairment in later life, and I think the FA have done a study as well. So I think the FA have tried removing deliberate heading in matches across under 12 levels. I think where Scotland have banned heading on the days immediately before and after a match. I don't know whether United do anything like that. I don't know whether, each individual club has their own precedent, but I know IFAB have said, permanent concussion substitutes will be coming into football, laws more permanently. So it just remains up to those competitions around the world, whether it's implemented or not. I think it should be. So you can't, from reading what Rafa's quotes earlier, with players, they want to be on the pitch and contributing to the game as well. But as he said, no matter how much a player says they want to play, if the medical team are vetoing it, that's the case because it puts players' lives at risk. So just because the player says he's fine, the doctor or any of the medical team can, if they're wanting to ensure the health and safety of the players. So, as he said, we also have to make players understand it's not showing his strength to continue playing after series, but the real strength lies in getting out, stop playing, and resting up. And then it gives another player a chance to get onto the pitch as well. So, yeah, I say research has been done for many years, and obviously years and years ago, for the the older generation of players. The balls in those days they played with were much harder, and that impact on the head, it's going to be more significant. Okay, the balls today are probably more lighter, but it's still having that. Could be still having that same effect. So it's just it needs a large study, and then but say some footballers in later life when they retire, they get affected by cognitive impairment like dementia or Alzheimer's. But is that down to the chosen career they had, or is it something else? It's making that link, and that's where all the scientific research comes in. So when the link, if they can prove that link, is then what happens to the game of football then?
Again, I don't know if this is real, but Finn's gone. I think the current rule is clubs can only allow players to do a certain number of headers a week, and then he's actually come up with 25. And I can't be true. Surely there's not somebody stood there going, no, stop. That'll be your 26. No more. That's it now. No more headers for you. Like, how would you work that? That can't be a thing.
I think there's something in place, because if you in training every day doing headers, then that is going to have some impact. I just think they probably limit it. But I don't know whether it's like, as I said that about Scotland banning headering immediately before and after games as well. So I don't know whether they do it, in training.
Actually be true.
In training, but I don't know, it was set a certain time, but you only do it for a small amount of time. You're not spending like hours and hours out there doing the same repetitive thing. So well,
Finn's off to Google, so we'll see what he's got in a moment. Let's see if he can beat Dan, because it looks like he's doing the same thing. And whilst we're doing that, as we're on the Raphael Varane chat, and it doesn't look like we're going to be talking much about him for the rest of the season, it's time for the Raphael Varane quiz. I like to do this. Basically, I'm on a stats page, so as a result, there's a couple of things that have popped out and made me go, ooh, I wonder if they know that. So he scored 2 goals in his 92 games, but against who?
Wolves and...
He's got one.
Should know. Oh, God. Who's the other one? I don't know whether he did it at home or not. No, hang on. Did he do this at home or away?
Throw some names out. Chelsea.
No, but it is a club from London.
Arsenal.
This is not a big club from London.
Crystal Palace.
It's not a club. It's kind of wear red.
Brentford.
Yes, there you go. I need to eventually.
You did that at home there last season? It was the final home game of the season. I'm sure. Did
it finish 1-0?
3-0. I'm sure it was 3-0. Last season, or it might have been the season before that. Yeah, I'm sure it was 3-0. He just rounded it off. His was the last goal, I remember.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, Connor's found the information. Apparently, it's a guidance, not a rule. And it's in headers. So Finn, if he was managing a club, would probably be getting fined right about now because it's too many headers. But fair play, mate, because you came up with information that I didn't know. This has absolutely blown my mind. So well done. Well done. He's found it, so it'll be very interesting to see what he writes there. And this is interesting as well from Michael. He's put West Bromwich F. Astor was renowned for his heading, and after his death, a post-mortem revealed multiple brain lesions. In those days, the ball was heavy with laces, and for me, best avoided. That's the thing, isn't it? Anyway, back to Raphael Varane. He's also scored 1 own goal against who?
Was this at home as well? Stumped me whether he did this at home or away.
Is it Premier League or Champions League?
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to narrow.
It's a side that is no longer in the Premier League. It was last year in February.
Leicester?
Close, but no cigar. It finished 2-2.
Leeds.
There you go. He's got there.
Because they scored twice, like within God.
be
Was
honest.
it within first 15 or 20 minutes, Leeds were 2 up, and then we had to fight back. So yeah, I remember now.
So there we go. Apparently, Finn found there's a lot of arguing going on in the chat. If you found it, Finn, well done. Good job to all of you. Excellent, brilliant. You're like little dogs going off the face to fetch the stick. Brilliant stuff. Well done. But yeah, there you go. So there, that's that. There are little chats about Rafael Varane. And moving on from that, we need to have a little conversation about Martinez, because he's out now, which just leaves you wondering what else is going to happen this season. It's, as far as defenders go, it's been horrific. It really has. In terms of, I mean, look at Malacia. He's been out all season and unlikely really to be back at all this season. So that's a whole year that we've been paying the wages for someone who's just not fit enough to come out for us on the pitch. He's got a much better win ratio, 64%. So we do better with him. But again, he's only played 56 games, 71 conceded in those 56 games. And again, he's been only been with us 2 years. It's still not an ideal number of appearances. Obviously, he had 45 last season. He was there all the way through. Only 11 appearances this season, which is not ideal. So what do we think about this with Martinez going out as well? And what does that do for our centre-back partnership? Is it now going to be Maguire and Evans till the end of the season?
I would say so, yeah. Well, Martinez, with Lindelof going off against Brentford, I thought hopefully that injury isn't too serious, because I've just seen clutching his leg, and I thought, and you're just waiting for the ball to go out of play and just sit down and get some treatment. But to hear that Martinez has pulled up as well, I was like, because I remember just seeing it on Andy Mitten reporting, it was like, Martinez is out. I was like, no. I thought April Fools was yesterday, not today. And I was just like, can't be the case. But United have confirmed it, and now another at least a month as well. So Barry's decided to leave us.
Barry's had enough. Barry's gone. Barry's injured.
Yeah, he's pulled up. He's gone to the treatment room. No, so yeah, Leeds should be out. It's just, I thought when he came, because Maguire had already come on as well, I thought, it's the partnership I wanted to see. So, but no, even that's dissipated. But yeah, I believe it's going to be Maguire and Evans, and like I say, Maguire's, hope he can get some sharpness over the next few games, and I think Johnny Evans, he'll just bring his experience to every game as well. So, but
is Johnny Evans fit?
Was he on the bench Saturday? Actually, I can't remember. I'm trying to remember who was on the bench. That's how.
I need to check that now, because it might change my opinion.
Because I thought with Martinez, I'd have only bought him on against Brett if we'd have been 2 or 3-0 up, but the injuries forced a hand. So I think he wanted. Well, Martinez is a warrior. He just wanted somebody that would just go in there for battle, and we kind of needed somebody in there because Brentford were coming out of stock a bit like a train. It was like, we need to sort of stop their run, but yeah, it's just.
Well, apparently, Connor wants to join us. Apparently, not us. I think he actually thinks he could play. And to be fair, Connor's the sort of one who'd be perfect in defence, because every time he heads a ball, it would land on it like a little nest. And it'd be so cushioned, he'd have no problems. And actually, if it did hit him in the head, it might knock some sense into him, like some good musical taste, good film taste, that sort of thing. So, who knows? Dan, what do you reckon? Leach are out potentially for a month. Lindelof as well, is that? So, that's 3 of our centre backs. We've got no left backs left. Even our makeshift left back's gone. And the good news is it's only Chelsea, Liverpool to come. So, what could possibly go wrong?
No, we're going to win both. It's going to be fine. Evans wasn't on the bench. So I don't know whether Evans is fit either. We'll have less of that thing. We'll have less of that slander. Yeah, honestly, again, it's same as Varane. Stu actually touched on this the other day in terms of Martinez shouldn't have really been anywhere near the team. We should have just left it alone. Should have left him out of it, give him a little bit of time to recover. I don't want to be one of those people that jump straight on the medical team or try and find a reason for the injury, blame the training, blame the manager, do you know what I mean? But there's obviously there's got to be something that's not quite right. I don't understand what's going off in terms of injuries, but you've got to remember that it's not just Man United that are picking up all these injuries. It's actually spread across. So is it a direct correlation to the fact that the World Cup was in a weird month? They've had less time to rest. They're adding 10 minutes to some games. Is that causing more issues? Often players sometimes pick up knocks when they come back from injury. I think if Johnny Evans isn't fit, it's going to be Maguire and Kamwala. And that's all we've got. I don't think we've got anything else. But then for me, this is why we should have chucked some of these players in a little bit more in case this happens, that you're ready for this sort of stuff. I just don't. We're so unlucky. We're so unlucky. Like, I've got loads of sympathy with Ten Hag because of it's just madness at this point. The amount of sheer volume of injuries we've had is madness. You can't account for this in any way. And I suppose it's not an excuse for him, but you can understand why we've been so inconsistent, because it's going to be another back four, another makeshift back four against Chelsea. Probably the same against Liverpool 3 days later. And that's the other thing. The rotation's gone. We're going to be playing Chelsea Thursday night and then straight playing Liverpool on the Sunday. We're not going to be able to rotate many, if any, of the players again. So it's just unlucky. The annoyance is Martinez will now miss the FA Cup.
Absolutely. It's like they're going to miss a lot of games, to be honest. And therein lies the problem. Okay, so as I'm on the page, we might as well do it. He scored 1 goal for the club as Martinez in his 56 games. Who is it against?
Arsenal away.
There's no mucking about with you, is there? Absolutely.
I think we ended up losing that game as well. So
I can remember the header. Right. It was a loopy one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Arsenal still won the game if I remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like all good defenders, he's also scored an own goal. Who was that against?
I think that was at home as well.
Was that Champions League or Premier League?
It was at home, wasn't it?
It was not at home. It was a game that we lost 2-0.
Premier League or Champions League?
It was, I believe it to be the Premier League. It was actually last year.
Is the club in North or the South?
And it was this season.
It was this season?
It was.
You just said last
23-24 season. So it was one of those early games that we played because it was in August.
No, that's it. Tottenham?
It was indeed.
It's got me blank, that. Yeah, can't even remember that.
83rd.
Yeah. He went through his leg. Yeah.
So there we go. I'm enjoying this because I was in a quiz last night and I was terrible. So it's good to see you lot.
That was a good quiz from what I watched.
That was the best quiz I've ever watched.
She wouldn't like this one. It's a bit like the Bible. If you don't understand that, go and watch All for Wayfo and you'll see quite where that went. Right. Was it 7 different centre-back partnerships we've played this season? Could well be. McTominay centre-back era incoming again. Maybe recall Phil Jones. I don't know if he'd turn up, but you never know. Why not?
Would be good.
Mike's making the point that it's not just the men, the women are struggling as well. NT doesn't want him. And here we go. The quizzes on AFU this week have been top tier. I've still got Jess's Jesus image running through my head every couple of hours. Tell me about it. And exactly what colour was his boots, though?
Black or green?
That question just absolutely blew my mind. It really did. Okay, so the other person, we could spend literally the entire show talking about every single defender because that's kind of where we are. But we do need to have special mention for Slabhead himself, Mr. Harry Maguire, because the game against Brentford was notable purely for the reason that he made his 200th appearance for the club. Again, he's been here since 2019, so that's 5 years, talking about 40 games a season, which is not too bad at all, really. Obviously, he played most of his games in the first couple of seasons. He's not had as many this season. Simple question for you both. Do you see him, one, starting the game against Chelsea, and two, being here next year, especially in light of everything that's going on? Would he be one of the ones you would keep due to the fact that he seems to be more available than the other defenders we've got?
I'll say, start with that. I'll say yes to both. I think, well, we're starting against Chelsea, and then I think he'll be still here next season. I think, it's before he got his injury, he was one of the most consistent players for United. He was putting in performance after performance, and we needed it in that defence as well, which is just these injuries have just crept on every single one of our defence. And it's just like, so we've had that no consistency, but Maguire, okay, he's probably coming on against Brentford, just lacking that match sharpness, but that's going to, hopefully come in the next few games because, he's going to be having to be relied upon even more now. So I just think it's great to see him back, and he's had to fight back from a lot because back in the summer, it was like, is he going to still be at the club? West Ham were interested, and I thought the abuse he receives online, for his performances, and just like, no, for your own sake, to move on. But I've thought, no, he just put his head down, just put in the hard work, and shown Ten Hag why he can be relied upon. So yeah, so yes to both your questions.
I'm gonna say yes. He's definitely gonna start against Chelsea. I'm gonna say no. I don't think he's gonna be here next season.
Would you like him to be?
Yes, I would like him to be. I just think when we talk about Ten Hag and what Ten Hag wants, I think it was clear that he didn't want McTominay and Maguire. And if we're talking about backing Ten Hag, I think they both go. What I would say is it's my personal opinion that Maguire and McTominay have saved Ten Hag's job this season at times after being unwanted. And now they're going to have, they've got chances.
That's a bit harsh. Like, you come in, do the business like McTominay has. He's been one of our top goal scorers for the season. Maguire comes in, shores up the defence, has the right attitude. Because let's be honest, he could have just come in and been disruptive, bit of a nightmare, just seen out his contract, hasn't done that. And the fact that we're talking about the attitude of some players, I would argue that these are two players that show the right attitude week in, week out. And I would rather keep them than some of these other, should we say, slightly more toxic players that throw their toys out the pram week in, week out.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think Maguire, some would say he's shown captaincy by the way he handled being dropped and the way he's been professional through the last 12 to 18 months. And let's be honest, he's on 200 appearances. And if he wouldn't have been dropped last season, he would probably be on 240, 250 because he was always available. He just wasn't picked. But it's just about what Ten Hag wants going forward. And his eggs aren't in these players' baskets with some others. And so I think they'll go. But McTominay and Maguire have now got a chance to do what I'm saying they've done already this season and save his job again with the run into the end of the season. Some players, and I suppose this is the best way of these players that people cast the doubt over of responding, is go and get us to an FA Cup final or lift the FA Cup. Try and get us back into a top not going to say top 4, but top 5 race where we could possibly finish 5th. Really stamp a little bit of authority and say, do you know what, Ten Hag, you're wrong about me. And it'll be interesting to see if Maguire has changed Ten Hag's mind in the last 12 months. Maybe last season he didn't fancy him, but maybe come this summer, because of what he's done this season, he might go, do you know what? He's the kind of player that I do want around the squad. He's not going to chuck his toys out the pram if he's dropped, and he's ready when he's called upon and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. From what we saw in the summer, I think Maguire would go. I think McTominay would go too, just because I feel like Ten Hag's got his eye on some players and he'll want them in. Whether or not the club can do that for him is a completely different story.
Do you reckon, Andrew?
So yeah, I still say Maguire's gonna be here. I just think, and McTominay too. I just think, they've shown somebody's put in the comments there, their professionalism. Even when they've been dropped and coming off the bench, they're not one to stand there bemoaning and going, "Oh, I'm not getting much game time." So when they've been called upon, they've gone out there and delivered everything on that pitch. I mean, I'm just thinking back to the home game against Brentford, and it was Maguire and McTominay, for that winning goal. Just like it was them two that saved that game for us. And I'm thinking that's a pure example of that. And I'm just thinking they're both contributing in so many ways this season. McTominay with his goals as well, and Maguire with his defending as well, and chipping in with goals as well. So it's just like, yeah, those are the players you want. We're going to give everything on that pitch as well. But I say it's going to be an interesting summer. There's players that are going to be heading out the door, so they may go, they may not. But like I say, we'll continue to support them and the team. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the summer on both of those.
I hope they have changed his mind, because in my opinion, the mentality and professionalism is that of Man United players. I wouldn't start McTominay, and I wouldn't necessarily expect Maguire to be a starter next season, but they both have the right mentality to be at the club. It's quite funny that we question the mentality of players, and them two have shown nothing but the right stuff on and off the pitch. There's definitely players I would let go first, but I do think that Ten Hag will hope that.
And I think that's the problem we're in. There are a lot of players you want to get rid of. The back four have not been at the level we need them to be at this season. I don't think anybody could argue with that or disagree with that. The fact that Onana has now turned into effectively our best player, and we're going to get onto the player of the month bit at the end. But the fact that he's been our best player, he's saving on average 5 shots a game, as it seems to go at the moment, which is just crazy good from him. We can't replace everybody. So that's the bit that I think is going to be really, really tricky. We've got to decide where we need to replace more. I do think, though, defence and attack are the two main sort of areas, if I'm brutally honest. I don't think we've had enough in attack, hence why our goal difference is pretty much 1. Well, it's not now, is it? It's 0, because we drew again with Brentford. But equally, the defence needs to be better, because we're just letting too many in, hence why our goal difference is still only 0. So he's got to pick a side and go with it, and I think I know which side I would go with. But there we go. Let's say we get 2 very good centre-backs next season. Who stays, who goes? You see, I would argue Evans has got to go. He's too old. That he's not going to be able to do it week in, week out. He's a good enough backup. But for me, that's what you keep someone like Maguire for, because he's more likely to do it. To be honest, the only 2 I would keep at this moment in time is Maguire and Cambuala. Obviously, Martinez, because we think he'll, get better. And they're sort of your 3. I think Varane goes. And if I'm honest, I think Lindelof probably goes as well. So that'd be my 2. He said, more realistically, what if we only get 1 good centre-back who will stay? Well, I'd keep Lindelof. I think Varane is the one who needs to go, because as we've seen, he's just not done enough. Would you be happy if we brought in 5 new defenders this summer and that's that? It depends. As long as they're 5 defenders that are going to help us, not concede so many, because we can score, but we're very reliant on Højlund. We're very reliant on Rashford being on form. And if those two people aren't, we're reliant on Martial being fit, which is a bit like relying on a car with no wheels to actually take you somewhere. So it's not easy.
Style.
True though, isn't it? And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So no, I think is the answer. That I wouldn't be happy if we just concentrated on the defence. I would, to be honest, I think we probably need two in each position. I would be happy with two defenders, two midfielders, and a striker. You know, someone up top to do the business. But yeah, that's a different thing. I still think that, like I said, the likes of Mainu and Fernandez, we can keep. So actually, I'll probably be happy with one midfielder, two attackers, and two defenders if we were only getting 5. So there we go. Listen, it's Chelsea preview. We spent a lot of time just talking about our defence because that's obviously where the woes are. But we do need to talk a little bit about the Chelsea side and how that's going to go. Now, as it stands at the moment, obviously there are some big matches occurring from our point of view. So Newcastle are drawing with Everton, which is, you know, by the by, really. West Ham are drawing with Spurs. Now, for us, that's quite big. It means at the moment we are 9 points behind Spurs. We are 11 points behind Villa. And just in case you'd really like the fun stuff, we're 19 points behind Liverpool. So if that's not made your day, I don't know what will. It's going to be tough. But when we look at it, Chelsea are 12th. They're struggling. They're only on 40 points. They're actually only 8 behind us, even though they're 6 places behind. And they are 18 points off the relegation zone. So when you look at the difference from top to bottom, we're in similar sort of positions. We've watched Chelsea have a massive fall from grace. We really have. You know, they were one of the biggest sides in the country, mentioned as part of the top 6, the big 6. I'd argue Chelsea have been like this for 2 seasons now. Probably not necessarily in the big 6 anymore. You are probably looking at Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Spurs and Man United potentially here. And then who's the other one? Who would be your 6th team? West Ham have done quite well. Newcastle have done quite well. Villa have done quite well. I wouldn't say you'd put any of those in there. I just wouldn't think there's a big 6. I think there's a big 5 now because Chelsea just have not been at the races. How are we feeling about this game? Because everything that's statistical tells us we should go into this game and win. They've got patchy form, very patchy form. A 2-2 draw against Burnley, despite taking the lead twice and in a game against 10 men. Beat Leicester 4-2 in a game against 10 men. Beat Newcastle 3-2, which they've done really well at, but drew with Brentford, and we know what that's like. Just about beat Leeds in the FA Cup, but of course had that little loss to Liverpool in the cup final, which, to be honest, was probably deserved over the entirety of the game. But they've drawn with the likes of Man City. They're not doing awful with Pochettino. They're just not pulling up trees. So, yeah, where do we stand? Andrew, are you confident that we can travel to Stamford Bridge and pick up the points?
Well, I'm just thinking back to the reverse fixture at Old Trafford. I'm just thinking Chelsea played a very open game, which helped us in that respect. So it allowed us to be a bit more free-flowing. And I think, what if Chelsea are going to do the same again this time, which could play to our advantage? And I mean, yeah, they were dealt a fresh blow, you know, because they can still get like Conference League, you know, qualifying for that, or Europa League, but, you know, being pegged twice back by Burnley, you know, last on the weekend. So it's just, I think Pochettino admitted after the game, you know, the team lacked heart and head and were missing something in what he deemed a must-win game against Burnley. And you could almost argue that about United's points this season sometimes lacked a bit of heart and head, you know, just like we've been missing something, you know, and defensive frailties have cost Chelsea as well in their campaign, much like United, you know. And so Chelsea conceded 2 goals across their last 5 games. So you expect there to be a few goals on a Thursday night. So I think they haven't kept a clean sheet in any of their last 11 games across all competitions. So, yeah, but so their record against us, recent records not been great. Well, so they haven't beaten us since, in the last 12 league meetings since 2017. So hopefully we're continuing that run on Thursday, and we go to Stamford Bridge and get all 3 points. But I think it's going to be a very open game. But it's just we've got to take the chances that are presented to us. And after the Brentford game, Tenor was like dismissive of the high volume of chances we gave up, but when we get in these chances, we've got to take them as well. So and that's where we struggled this season. And with the chances, yes, Ten Hag must take some of the blame for that, but also criticism should be levelled at the players way too for not taking those chances. So, but hopefully, let's say I'll be there at Stamford Bridge, and hopefully we're coming out with a smile on my face at, just after 10, and with all 3 points on the way back.
You're upsetting the locals here, isn't it, Andrew? Which isn't great.
I'm always optimistic. I'm always I always go into games thinking United are gonna win, so I never think we're gonna draw. There's always.
I know you kept that up this season, mate, but well played.
Even when Mason Mount scored, I was like, "Oh, we won it," and then
Dan, I wanted to throw it across to you with regards to how they've been doing, because they've not been shy in front of goal. Cole Palmer, obviously, with 16 this season. They've got Jackson with 14, Sterling with 8, Mudryk scoring quite a few as well. So, they've got players out there that are, doing the business and working hard. This is what I say. And NT was right with what he said. They are rubbish, but they're also awkward form-wise. You can't actually call what's going to happen in a Chelsea game. We all would have expected them to beat Burnley. Didn't. And convincingly not either. Burnley went down to 10 with a better team at times, trying to put it back and put the effort in. Take Cole Palmer out of the mix. Do they have what it takes to beat us man for man? Or can you see this being one of those where, because it's a bigger team, we put ourselves together a little bit more and perform a bit better, a la Liverpool?
I think this is probably the hardest game of the season to predict between any two teams in the Premier League, to be honest. In terms of who's going to win, it's just all over the place. I wouldn't. It's a bet killer, is what it is. 50% of people would bet Chelsea, 50% would bet Man United. It's just an absolute bet killer. The Chelsea, in my opinion, it's going to sound weird when I say it, but they're doing something that they will see the benefits from in the next couple of seasons, which is they're giving young players a chance, mixing with old players, and they've got rid of all the players that they don't really want, and they're trying players that their work. And if they stick by Poch for 12 more months, they might start to see a bit of fruition from it. It's a little bit different to what we're doing, but they're not a million miles away from us this season. When it's only 8 points to beat us tomorrow, it's 5. It's suddenly the gap is more than manageable in catching us, which is madness to think. And they've been poor.
But then, interestingly, they've scored 49 and conceded 47. So this is what I mean when I say, even though there's a gap between us, we're very similar.
Yeah, they've got +2 goal difference. We're on 0.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they are, as I would have said, I call them like the Manchester United of the South this season, in terms of the fact that in the way they've fallen from grace in that respect. But you're right; they're very similar.
Yeah, they're a weird team. They basically what Chelsea did. I like Graham Potter. I think he gets a lot of stick for his time at Chelsea. But Potter was a manager that he liked a group of players and he could raise the level of the players as long as he got a chance to work with them. What happened at Chelsea is they chucked £1 billion worth of players at him and went, make it work. And that's what they've done with Poch. And they're both having the same struggles because of that. It's not a unit and it's not a team. It's individuals that are trying to stick together. So they're having exactly the same patches of inconsistency, conceding goals, scoring goals. And it's very similar to what you would label at Man United, that we don't defend as a team. Chelsea don't defend as a team, which is why the games are so wide open. They didn't know how to deal with playing against 10 men. So they came off second best for the majority of the time they was playing against 10 men. And it's a player issue, a coaching issue, and a boardroom issue. The clubs are so similar in what's happened. I would hope that we've got enough to beat them, but I would hope we would show something against Brentford, and we didn't. We got bullied and battered for 90 minutes. So it's madness to think that this game could literally end 4-4 with both teams being absolutely tremendous in attack and on the ball, or it could be the drabbest 0-0 we've ever seen in the entire Premier League history with no shots on target. Because that's how inconsistent they are.
I'm pretty sure that was City and Arsenal.
Oh, bloody hell, it's right up there, isn't
I was
it?
going to say, just to add on that, I say United, we've probably got the psychological edge considering our recent record against them, but as you said, there's little to separate us. But we're both underperforming, defensively vulnerable, and both us and Chelsea can't afford to drop any more points heading, now into the last run of the season. But just reading this out here, the last five of the 7 top flight meetings have all ended all square. So you could argue Thursday's game is more likely to end in a draw than a win for either side. But maybe we just have that slight edge on them considering our record.
The issue we've got as well is we need to start picking up points again. This sort of downward bit of form came as we lost to Fulham, and it's knocked on to the City game, and then I think we've won 2 of the last 5 in the Premier League, and it's just knocking on a little bit. So we need to really pick up some points tomorrow to have a little bit of a, I don't know what the word is, bounce going towards the FA Cup game. We can't fall into the FA Cup game.
And Liverpool on Sunday as well, a bit of a bounce because we don't.
Yeah, I've completely blocked that out of my head.
I just think
we've absolutely got to.
No, remember the performance was given. That's what the players are going to remember. Remember that performance they gave in the FA Cup.
Well, the thing is, they're going to need to, but Liverpool will remember that as well, and that's the big thing: is that Liverpool will remember that, and they're not going to want
the mindset.
Not going to want to be upset again. So yeah, 2 big games. NT, interesting. You've thrown this one out here about how they're doing for injuries. Well, I can confirm that they're going to be without Wesley Fofana. He's got a knee injury. Romeo Lavia, who's got a thigh injury. Christopher Nkunku, Reece James, and Leslie Ugachukwu all got hamstring issues. Levi Colwell's out. He's hurt his toe. I think he stubbed it whilst getting a remote control. Carney Chukwuemeka, he's got a knock. Robert Sanchez and Trevor Chalobah, both unsure why, but again, it's an injury issue.
I'm glad you're having to say these names.
Sorry?
I said I'm glad you're having to say these names.
I mean, you just
Absolute
give it a go.
mouthful.
What's the worst that happens? You get it wrong. I've tried, not being disrespectful.
I think most of them sounded bang on.
But I don't think I've done too bad at all, to be honest with you. I've just read them as they're written. The fullbacks, Gusto, who I thought was a food ordering place, and Ben Chilwell, both assessed ahead of kickoffs. They might be available. Gusto obviously hurt in the draw against Burnley, so they're not sure. Meanwhile, Chilwell missed out because of a knee problem. So yeah, that could be quite a lot of injuries, but I think the big question there is how many of those would have been starters anyway. Again, this is where it would have been helpful to have somebody from Chelsea. We did try. We were in contact with a Chelsea fan. I don't think he fully understood the assignment. Most other fan channels, when we have a little chat with them, we get him in, we get him into the DMs, we ask him to slide in and have a little conversation with us so that we can, do the negotiations in private and work out what's going on. I think he was just surprised that a Man United fan wanted to speak to him and, lost the plot entirely. So this is a guy who's got an interview with Ken Bates on his page. Didn't understand what, can you DM us, please? We'd like to talk to you meant. So never mind. That was unfortunate. It would have been nice to have had him on because he speaks a lot of sense on his channel. So I thought that might have been helpful and he could have helped us with the Chelsea side. But as it is, he can't. So we're just going to point and laugh at all of them and say, ha. And hope that helps us out. What I would say, though, as well as that Brentford had their back four, their first choice back four out, and look how that game went. So we really can't use that as a yardstick. We have got a couple of other things to talk about. So we're just going to go straight in now with the predictions so that we can put Chelsea to bed. Dan, you said it's going to be the most difficult one, so we're going to come to you first because you had literally the whole hour to think about it. And before, what do you reckon?
I'm going to say 3-1 to us. No idea why. Blind faith. 3-1. Fernandez is going to score 2.
Interesting. Andrew Wool?
So I think it's going to be an open game. I think there's going to be some goals because both teams are defensively vulnerable. But I'm going to go 3-2 to us.
Very good. Very good. You'd have noticed I get away with not giving a prediction most times. So I'm just going to plead the fifth on this one again. And move. Oh, no, I'm not. We're 3-1. Yeah, I'm going to go with Dan, actually. I think it could be the case. You can do that, like I say, a bit of confidence. And yes, it would be lovely to see Rasmus back on the score sheet. Right, so the next bit does relate to the game, but it's more about the logistics because I'm a little bit shocked at how this week has worked. When you consider the fact that we're a club that only needs to play one game a week now, we've got pretty much nothing else to play for. We're only at April. There's only like 9 or 10 games to play. How have we hit a point, boys, where there's 1, 2, 3, 5 games playing tonight. On Wednesday, you've got another 3 games being played, and then on Thursday you have 2 games being played. Liverpool are going to play Sheffield United on the same night as we play Chelsea. Now, interestingly, you might sit there and go, well, we're both on the same night because obviously we play Chelsea and on Sunday we play Liverpool. So at least in that respect, it's both teams. But Liverpool kick off at 7:30 in a home game. We kick off at 8:15 in a game where we've got to travel the length of the country. So we've got to go all the way there, come all the way back, potentially late at night if we don't stay in a hotel overnight. Logistically, not the most ideal. Now, conspiracy theorists abound. They would sit there and say, well, this is all a plot against Manchester United. It's all there for Liverpool because they want Liverpool to win the league on Clippity Klopp's last hurrah, gives him the opportunities to do all of that. I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories. I just put it down to incredibly bad management of the fixtures. Now, we spoke about this a little bit with TV companies and everything before, Dan, which again was quite interesting. But why couldn't we just play that game on Wednesday? And if we had to, why couldn't we just have a Wednesday game? Why have they had to push it onto a Thursday? Or why are we not playing Liverpool on a Monday? Is it fair that there's only a 3-day gap for both teams? It is that. But Liverpool are in a home game. We've got to go and do the travelling. 3 days later, we've then got to face Liverpool. And, again, even that game, yes, it's at home for us, but it's not exactly the biggest travelling that Liverpool are ever going to have to do. All they've got to do really is get over, I think, the Mersey and their ego, and they're there. So, what do you reckon? Is it fair for both of you? What's your thoughts? Because I think it's a little bit crap.
It's a massive problem in English football. I've mentioned it on another show. The FA are really reluctant to move games because of X, Y, and Z, and you see other federations literally give a team a weekend off or move the game completely if they reach finals, where they won't do that for us. Pep Guardiola's even had a moan saying that they've got to play 7 games in 21 days, is it? Something like that, because they're going for the treble. Oddly enough, that didn't happen to them last season when they went for the treble. They didn't have a situation like that. So I'm not sure why they could sort it last season, that the fixtures were better for them, but they can't do it this season. Liverpool themselves, just to argue their point of view, because I don't want people thinking that we just bias, they've had, I think it's 12 or 30 kickoffs after internationals, after Champions Leagues, which is the most of any team, and it's not even close. I think Spurs were next with like 4, 5. So that keeps hitting them because they want them to be on the TV. And we mentioned about the away traveling as well. Andy's got to travel to London, find his way. He drives, so it's fine. He's got to find his way back. But the people that don't, they have to rely on trains and stuff. It's gonna be a nightmare for them. There's got to be a better way of doing it at some point, but it just doesn't work for me. Even when we won the treble, we was playing a game every 3 days, and It was madness, really, that we even managed to get through these games. And I think it's so unfair that it seems to affect teams that do well in competitions more. I get that they end up playing more fixtures, but there's surely ways in which they could just extend the season by a week if you have to, and give yourself a little bit more space in the calendar if you have to. But there's got to be something they can do. There is no reason this game couldn't have been played tonight, or they could have moved our game at the weekend forward a couple of days, because the same with Liverpool. I know they've got the Thursday night, and that's probably why they have to play on the Sunday, etc. But there's ways they could have done it to make more space between the fixtures. It's just this way gets them the most money, and this way pleases the most TV companies. They get the most ticks from that. It's where all the money comes from. You could argue, and I'm sure, just to go a little bit lower down the leagues, Luton would say, well, you deserve it. If you want all this TV money and you want all these players and stuff like that, you have to accept the fact that you're going to be on TV more. So your kickoff times are going to vary more, or the schedule might become a little bit unfair if you get to more competitions. So you are on TV more, but you get more money for it. So it's not a problem. But there's definitely ways they could have done it, and it's certainly not fair. And it's not just Man United have been shafted and no other team does. I think it applies to everybody. There's ways they could do it better. I'm sure there'll be relegation teams battling for survival come the end of the season that end up playing 2 games in 3 days for absolutely no other reason that they can put such and such on telly, or we can play Easter games or whatever else it is. So I definitely think there's a way of doing it better, and it's unfair, but I just don't know how they're going to do it, or if they would, because of the money.
Absolutely. I just want to double check this. I'm pretty sure, Mike, is this you, our friend from America, who got in touch with us again today? Because I genuinely was really worried about him, because he just disappeared. He'd gone. He did one of those things that John Commode likes to do every now and again, where he just gets rid of Twitter. I mean, it's the only way that you can talk to somebody. You get really worried, because the last time I'd spoken to him, he'd planned a big trip over to here. And literally within his first day of getting here, he broke his wrist. So he hadn't been too well, and I was very worried. So if that's you, Mike, lovely, absolutely lovely. I hope you don't mind me calling you Mike there, but absolutely lovely to have you back in the chat and back around AFU, because I was, very, very, very worried about you. So glad that all is well with you. Andrew, same over to you. I mean, you say you're going to Chelsea, is that right?
Yeah, I got my ticket, yeah.
Now, you're only a Midlander, one of those people who can't be bothered to call yourself either North or South, just a fence sitter, if you will. But the Midlanders are going to come for me now, and I can't wait. Why do you think this has happened? And do you think it's fair? Because I don't think it is. Not on both teams, by the way. It's just not right for a fair contest.
It's like my dad said, it's like a European week for both Liverpool and United. He's playing Thursday and Sundays. I'm like, so Thursday, this is the European week. I said, what do you mean? He said, Thursday, Sundays. I'm like, but that's TV for you. Then it rules the roost in football. And just, I think somebody put a post out on X yesterday about it was a documentary on the BBC. It was going to be 20 years plus ago, and saying about how TV would change the game, and literally everything that was said in that documentary came true. It's like TV is ruling the rules. They'll decide when clubs are going to kick off, how much money they're going to invest. They want people, they'll decide the kickoff times because they want to see viewers tune to their products, which I get. But when they say football, the Premier League and the FA, fans are the most important. We care, but you care to a point, but at the end of the day, you wanted to make money out of the beautiful game, and TV controls the Premier League. They dictate when games are going to go on. And I think which game come up recently? Was it Tottenham against Tottenham? They moved the game back by a day or two, and it's like giving the fans like 10 days notice. It was like, well, that's not fair. And the Premier League have this rule where they must inform fans, fixture changes, throughout this, for each month of the season 6 weeks in advance, you know, and they came out and said, "Oh, we apologise, but this is what's happened." Like, but that doesn't. Fans who are planning for that game to go on a certain day now can't go, or you know, having to give their ticket up. So, yeah, TV has definitely ruled the roost, as I said. But we say, as much as we complain, it's just, our TV company's really going to listen? No, because you know they're going to dictate it all over the place. So, as long as the Premier League is making money, which they are for their products, would you want to change it? It's
But see, this is where it gets weird, because you look at that Sunday when we play Liverpool. You know, Sheffield United will play Chelsea, so Sheffield United also playing on the Thursday. Spurs will play Forest. Now, again, when you look at the Thursday games, as I say, Chelsea not on are the only team playing there on Thursday. Don't play Sunday. We look at City Villa. City Villa's on the Wednesday, and then they're playing on the Saturday. So it's the same for them, to be fair. You know, it's across the board.
what's like the kickoff time for Sunday as well. It's 3:30. Usually those United, Liverpool, and the other big games going at 4:30. Now it's like, I get why. I think 3:30 is because of police intervention. They want it an hour early. I think that's, because I remember, like, was it when first half of the season, the United City game was at 3:30, and I was like, why is that? And I was like, I think that's, like I say, TV companies are dictating, but also, which I get, the police are getting involved now and say intervene. Yeah. We want games, these top flight games, a little bit earlier, to, you know, so we want to avoid crowd trouble, which hardly get gains, but you never know what could happen. But you've got that perspective to think of now as well.
I agree. What I will say to you, Mike, is you do not need to confirm your nationality. It doesn't matter. You can be any nationality you want and come on this channel. It's not a drama at all. And what I meant by this, NZ, is it's not as far to travel. From my point of view, I live just north of London. Yeah. So if I was one of those who went to them regularly, an 8 o'clock kickoff, 8:30 is not going to matter to me in the slightest. It will take me 45 minutes to get home. Not a problem. You know, Andy is going to go. If he's lucky, he'll be out by 11 o'clock, and then he's got to drive himself home. Still a couple of hours for him. It's, you know, a 1 o'clock thing. You've got to work in the morning. Whereas if you're from Manchester, you ain't getting back till 2, 3 o'clock potentially. So
I get home sooner than that.
Say again?
I get home sooner than 2 or 3 o'clock from Manchester.
Oh.
So yeah,
you're retarded, are you?
So it's about 2 and a bit hours each way. So say an evening game at Old Trafford, I leave an hour after the game, so 11 o'clock I leave, and I'll be probably maybe just before 1 or just after 1. So it's not 2 or 3. So I would be well and truly knackered if it was that time. But I'd still do it.
Kickoff.
Still do it anyway.
10, got to get out the car park. I don't know.
No, I'm going to find somewhere to park at Chelsea as well. That's the one thing about stadiums in London. Parking is a nightmare. That's why I prefer up north.
Yeah. And you know what, NT? I'm so pleased you said this, because I had. Oh, as long as you're not Swedish, it's not quite so arch enemy. Oh, crikey. It's like Robot Wars. It's great. NT, look what you've put here, because this is exactly what I was trying to get across to Dan, and he wasn't having none of it. United should release a Netflix type service for all their live games. I actually think this should be the case for every club in the Premier League, and have full matches, highlights, and documentaries on it too, instead of MUTV. Exactly the sort of thing we'd want. You put it would never happen. It probably won't, because it will reduce money from other places. Sky all of a sudden don't have anything, but it would probably be ridiculously profitable for us instead of everyone streaming illegally all the time. This is the thing. The clubs would get the money, which would be quite interesting. And who knows, maybe the people like Sky get to pick a game to show, so they're doing it alongside. So if people don't want to pay, you know, they can just have all the big games if they want. I don't know. I actually thought it would have to be like all of the TV companies would have to come together for one big pot, which they all take a bit out of, in order for that to really work. And it would have to be like the NFL Game Pass. So you're paying the company so that money goes out to TV companies as well. Otherwise, I'm I'm not convinced they would be happy just losing what they've got, but who knows? It's a tricky one. But that answers that one, which leads us to our last question, which is quite an easy one, really. Hence why I've left it till the end. But the Player of the Month award has begun. The Player of the Month for March, and there are 3 choices. And those choices are Alejandro Garnacho, Diogo Dalot, and Andre Onana. So I'm intrigued. Who would you pick if you were putting or you might have already done it, but if you were voting on the Man United app, which player would you pick out of those 3? Or would you have picked somebody different? Andrew Wall, you've been there. You've seen it all. You've watched a lot. You're the famous Andrew Wall, and you're a bit of a swat. So which one would you... Only word I could think of that was right. Who would you have chosen? Georgie's gone for Gallo.
I know. They've all been good. They've all put in good performances over the months. I'm going to give it, just because of how the first half of the season went for him, and now he's proven his consistency, is Andre Onana. I'm just thinking, he just like some of the recent games where we could have been out of sight, he's kept us in the game. So I'm just thinking he's probably starting to show why we started to fork out that money for him. So it's just like that consistency's coming into his game. So, but equally the other 2 I could give the vote for, but I'm going to give it to Onana.
Interesting. Dan, who would you give it to?
I'm going to give it to Dalot. I don't know. I'm being a little bit. I'm not biased, but because he's been really good all season, so it's not just like a flash in the pan.
It's not player of the season, Dan.
No, I know what you're saying, but he's kept that consistency all season. He's been as good as Onana has.
Player of the month works. This is why people like you shouldn't be allowed to vote. I don't mean like literally. Like if you want to go and pick the Tories or Labour, feel free. I mean, in things
absolutely
like
not the Tories.
How on earth can you? You can't. You've got to go not prior to March. So he might have been good all season. Has he done enough during March? So I think there's only one answer to this. It's Onana for me.
Yeah, no, I think he's done enough in March as well. I think his performances have been really, really good for us. Probably alongside Onana for standout. I'd say it was. I think you can argue either of them, and neither are wrong answers, if that makes sense. Sometimes you could say, well, he's been loads better, but I think they've both been really consistent. And I get why people would go for Onana, to be honest, because he's been fantastic. But I just think Dalot's been really, really good.
I'm happy to go back now through the games at March. We had the defeat to Man City, where we lost 3-1. We had the win against Everton, where we won 2-0. We had the win against Liverpool, where we won 4-3. And we had the draw against Brentford. Now, I would argue that in those games against City and Brentford specifically, those are 2 games where you could potentially say that Dalot didn't quite perform to the level that he has done all season. I would argue that in all 4 of those games, you would say that Andre Onana was probably at a 7 at least for every single game, whereas the other 2, Dalot and Garnacho, are more likely to hit a 6 on those. What would you say to that accusation, young man?
Bear with me 1 second.
And he's going for statistics. I hope Simon's not watching.
So Garnacho, because like the Brentford game, Garnacho was hardly in it at all. And I think at a point, during the first half, Rashford and him, they were told to swap sides, but I think literally early on in the second half, I think Ten Hag had seen enough and went, I'll get Anthony on instead. So
Garnacho strikes me as best of the rest type thing. It was as if they knew it had to be either Onana or Dalot. But which one to go for?
I mean, Dalot in the Liverpool game especially, I think he was great in that game. But like I said, the Brentford game, besides
one game.
I'd maintain my argument from what I've just seen on here.
Go on then. What statistics have you found Is it something like Footy Mob has rated Dallo as a 7.5 and Onana as a 7.4? Because Dallo's won more headers or something silly like this.
It's because they've just. I'm looking at the games now, and I'm thinking back to the games in particular. I think the only reason that Onana would stand out clear in your head was because some of the saves he's made has probably won us the game or kept us in the game. So it's a little bit. Dallo hasn't been doing goal line clearances or assists, if that makes sense. But as a performance, I don't know what that was. His standard's been really good.
That was your credibility flying out behind you. That's what that was.
It definitely wasn't. So if you go to the rating apps, Onana has been rated better. He got a 7.8. He got an 8.3. He got a 8.2 and then a 7.5. So he's.
And what's Dallo got? Come on, throw it out there. Tell the class.
Dallo got an 8. No, sorry. 7.1, 7.5, 7.5, 7.3.
See? So all I did was get it slightly wrong. What I should have said was Onana has been a consistent 8 all through the games, and Dallo like a consistent 7.
Well, Onana got 2 7s and 2 8s, and Dallo got 3 7s and an 8.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, he didn't get 2 7s and 2 8s, did he? He got 2 8.5s and 2 7.5s ish. Which, when you round that and get the average, the mean, that you can argue with a teacher, that was about an 8. Whereas Dallo's were all around about 7.1.
But what I would say is it's easier for a goalkeeper to score higher by doing the simple things than it is for Dallo to score higher by doing
we
the
watched
simple
David De Gea let goals like that in for fun over the last 2 seasons.
Very true. Very true. I just
and actually, I think when you sit there and talk about how Onana was at the beginning of the season and how Dallo was at the beginning of the season, if you want to throw that out there, the redemption arc of Onana is just unreal. I think for me, he's not just been the best player for Manchester United this month. I would argue he's been one of the top 5 in the league this month.
But I think that goes to the season in the Premier League.
That goes to what?
It goes to the season in the Premier League,
No,
not just the
March.
month.
In March,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's been
top 5.
He's not been bad in the Premier League Onana at all. He's been quite good. He's been okay. Well, he's been better than okay. I just think Dallo deserves it because he's been so consistent constantly for us. And by the way, the only way I'm forgiving Onana this season is if he helps us lift an FA Cup, because he basically cost us Champions League football. So he owes us these performances at the minute. So I hope he keeps it up. But I will say I get why people think it's Onana, and it's not a wrong answer.
No, it's not a wrong answer. It's the right answer. The other 2 were the wrong answers.
Garnacho is the wrong answer.
Garnacho. Dallo's been good, but I think the fact that Onana's been good for 4 games and Dallo's been good for 3.
Wait.
That's the one.
Just going to get some credibility back here. Dallo.
Listen.
Dallo.
Everybody's entitled to be wrong. Everybody's entitled to be wrong. Not a problem. You're allowed to be. That's how British democracy works. Let's be honest. What we really care about is, what is Twilumber thinking? Who would you pick as your player of the month, Twilumber, only just getting here? Would it be Dallo or would it be Onana? I'm intrigued to see what you get to say. You can have the casting vote on this one.
Yes, Michael. None of them.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Going to give it to me for shaving or something. But yeah, look, like you say, the chat are all going for Dallo, which is absolutely fair enough. And NT saying, if I want Onana to get it, I'm not going to die on the Dallo hill. Fair enough. And that's the thing. They have both been very good. And yes, including me, Georgie, I'm just pulling your leg. I can absolutely see the argument for Dallo as well. And I actually agreed with what NT said here. Is it a little bit of the fact that we're looking at him a bit more kindly because of the fact, like I said, the redemption arc, the fact that he was absolutely atrocious at the beginning of the season, and now we're starting to see the Onana that Erik ten Hag wanted to bring into the squad. So listen, I think either way it could be like you say, no wrong answer on that one, apart from Garnacho. He's definitely not the player of the month for March, unfortunately. Maybe for one of the other months, but not that one. So, yeah. Did you go Dallo as well, Andrew, or did you go for an Arnold?
They went Onana.
Thought so. See, the Midlanders, always loved them. They're brilliant.
I'm from the Midlands.
Hence why you're on the show. Like, you know, let's say. Let's be honest, right? If we didn't like them, we could just do that. We could just do that, and then that's it. It would just be me, but that would be absolutely atrocious. So let's not do that ever again. Well, we're not going to wait for Twillenber's answer. If he gets it in there, superb. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. We've done the important stuff. We've run through the match, and absolutely, Georgie, both players have been quite good, and I think it is not quite a toss of a coin, but certainly a toss of the Brentford match for me would be the one. Some might argue the player of the match for Brentford was the post. But there you go. So, yeah, we are going to be back on, not Thursday, obviously, because it'll be very late. So we've got 3 coming up in succession. We'll be doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday, we'll be reviewing all things Chelsea. Everything that's happened in the game, we will bring it back here. We'll dissect it. We'll cut it apart, put it back together with Yoo-hoo Superglue, and decide whether or not there's any cracks in it or not. Then on Saturday, we will be back with the joys, the absolute joys of Liverpool, previewing that. I'm sure there will be lots of good memories in that night. We'll be talking a lot about the 4-3 game, I'm sure, just reminding ourselves of how good it felt, just in case, because then the next day on Sunday, after the game at 3:30, we'll be back again, 8:30, usual time, in order to dissect that one and see how that has gone. We've got some great people planned across the week. This young man here will be joining us. I think he's joining us on Friday. Let's see what he's put here. I retract my comment about Sweden, but I still can't stand IKEA. I'm in the middle of moving into a new house and I really despise flat packed furniture. To be fair, though, much easier to carry when it's flat packed. But yes, very annoying. And you just said, I'm on Friday shows. Remember to tune in. So indeed, we have got Jarvis on Friday. I feel like we've got somebody else already sorted for Friday, but I genuinely can't remember who it is. We've got Stu Woody joining us on the Sunday. I believe it's John Commode back on Sunday. He's taken a while. We've worked hard on trying to get him back in, but he's over in America now. He's found his job. He's all done. He's all sorted. And he feels like he might be able to join us on Sunday. So that could be good. Of course, Dan Bateman due to join us as well on Saturday. So, you know, we're getting there. We're on fire. We've got lots and lots of people. I've bought a lot of time for Twillenber. Unfortunately, he hasn't managed to join in with the chat yet. IKEA furniture is the work of the devil. Other flat pack furniture places are available, and we are the Red Devils, so maybe that's a good thing. Moyes hasn't made a sub yet, and we're in the 93rd minute, and it's 1-1. Well, maybe that's why he got sacked. I don't know. And yes, indeed, Stu, the Tipton Hammer, will be with us. So lots to look forward to. Andrew, lovely to have you on. Safe journey on Thursday as you cross the Watford Gap and make your way back down to the south again. I do hope it is a incredibly good game for you. And Dan as well, thank you very much for joining us. Will you be joining us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Dan? Are you gracing us with your presence as it stands?
I will be.
Lovely. Well, that all sounds good. So really, the only thing left to do is to hit the credits. And if you're wondering why I'm trying to buy time, it's because I'm sitting here in my head with just a little prayer going on at the moment. Because anyone who stayed behind for the last show will have noticed that when I clicked end stream, we had the music, that was great, and then the rest of us just appeared. I'm looking at the end stream now as if it is my absolute nemesis. So actually, we forgot the starred one. You starred this, Dan, and you never explained why. You just star things, then hope I'm going to bring them up. What was this about?
Because unfortunately, he's. I've seen it on Twitter already. There's a certain. I don't want to swear. There's a certain person already knocking out this sort of content because it's gonna get traction. It's gonna get clicks. It's gonna get, and it's just so toxic to the fan base. They're already there's articles, there's tweets, there's a reaction video, and it's just basically blaming all the staff, saying they're undermining Ted Hag, this, that, and the other. And it's just absolute nonsense. There's more reason that people could get injuries from being out for ages than doing heavy sport and then training. It just happens sometimes. It's just, yeah.
But is there
annoying.
not a point then to be made that actually they should be managing the return better?
Well, it depends on the thing.
They need to look at that.
Yeah, well, the issue is they're already saying that it was to do with him coming back too early in the game, but United reported that the injuries happened in training and it's a calf injury. So that might not necessarily have anything to do with the game. It could be a contact injury, it could be muscle injury, it could be a million different things. By jumping to such quick conclusions without knowing the facts, they're saying that it happened at the end of the game, that Ten Hag should have managed, like one of them saying Ten Hag should have managed it better and he'll get sacked, and one saying, well, it's the medical team's fault. It's basically just a big overreaction really quickly. Get the content out as fast as you can with the biggest storyline. It's just so annoying. Just let's have 5 minutes to see why it's happened before we start accusing anybody of misdeeds.
It's interesting. I don't currently hold the medical department to the highest of standards at the moment. I've got to be honest, Dan, because I do feel like if they were my doctors, I'd be worried because, again, it may not be the sole reason, 100%, but I do think there does have to be a little bit of looking at what's going on at the club because something.
By the same argument, though, it could be the training. Is he training them too hard?
Well, you argue that, but
yeah.
Rashford's all right. And he's been generally injured quite a bit. Fernandez not really had any problems.
The defenders, maybe it's the defending coaches are running him a bit too hard or something. But what I'm saying is, there's lots of different scenarios, and I don't think it's necessarily just one thing. It's like the increased minutes, the lack of rest, etc.
This is it. You absolutely do need to give them time to.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
It has to be built up, over potentially. And I do think that the reason why I think there is a nugget of truth in what's being put out there is that because we are so sparse defensively, that when we get someone, you kind of feel like you have to use them a little bit because they are your main players. They're the ones that you need to have in there. But it's that short-term, long-term game thing, isn't it? If you give them a chance.
I definitely agree. But I think what I mean is, so it's easy to blame. You can sort of blame the medical staff and say the players are picking up injuries, etc. But you could also easily quite blame the training, the training too hard, and that's why the muscle injuries are happening. And then you could quite easily say you had Kamwala on the bench against Brentford. It's Ten Hag's fault. Ten Hag shouldn't have brought him on. He should know better. But then it's all. It just
Stu did say that on Sunday.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah. It makes the whole club look poor when a channel of that stature is so quick to point so fast just to get clicks. Just take a minute and it will come out how he's got injured. It might have been a silly tackle. It might have been he's overstretched for the ball when he shouldn't have. He might have been trying too much himself. We don't know, and this is my issue. This is my point. We don't know whether Martinez has been told by the medical staff, you are not fit for this game. Just sit it out, wait. He went to Argentina as well, which wouldn't have helped. And then he might have said, you know what, I want to, I don't care. I'm ruling myself fit. We just don't know the facts.
True. And, I had this same argument about Jade Riviere and the fact that she was injured and came on for a couple of minutes. And there is that bit about the players knowing their body as well. Absolutely. And they have their own ownership over that. But it's a very interesting thing. So Jarvis has just put out here, Spurs dropped 2 points, West Ham 1, Tottenham 1. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference to us. It's the difference between being 9 points behind and 11 points behind. So, we got a chance to be 6 points behind, but will we catch them? You just got to hope that Spurs are going to be Spursy, I suppose. And NT, what was the channel? I'm sure you could find it if you look. There's probably only two that you could really go for, and my argument would be it's probably not Stretford Paddock. So if it's not them, it's the other one would be my guess, but I don't know because I've not seen it.
I love the Stretford Paddock.
And they're good. We like Stretford.
They are.
Who knows? Maybe one day we'll get Mr. Mutty on here because he is a top fella. But until then, we are going to drop off. So just throw this one out there if you haven't already. Please like and subscribe. I'm sure you've subscribed already, but if you haven't, click it. And if you haven't liked it already, please do. We've been doing really well with the likes. You guys have been working incredibly hard, pushing that one little button that takes you all of about 2 seconds to do throughout the entirety of it. So well done, you lot. We're getting over 10 each time, which is brilliant. We just need to maintain that and push it up. When we're trying to get 20 at least per video now, that would be really nice if you guys could do that. I'm going to push end stream now. So stick around for at least 10 seconds afterwards, because you never know, you might see us panicking again, which is a lovely little blooper for you lot. So, ta very much, and we'll see you all on Friday. Night all.